Mavi fonda, ortada podcast 3. bölüm, Unlimited ve British Council işbirlikleri Erişilebilir Sanat Festivali yazıyor. Sağda yuvarlak içerisinde üstte Moderatör Damla Durman ve konuşmacılardan Su Başbuğu ve Jo Verrent'in görselleri. Sol üst köşede British Council logosu, en altta sosyal medya linkleri. Devamında ekran ikiye bölünüyor. Solda konuşmadan görüntüler ve çeşitli görseller. Sağda işaret dili tercümanı. Sol üst köşede British Council logosu.
Welcome, everyone. This is a podcast series launched with the support of the British Council, exploring accessibility in the arts through bridges and possibilities. In this series, we will discuss how to integrate accessibility into artistic production, creative tools for inclusive art, and collaborations between the UK and Turkey from the perspective of professionals and artists. We are recording our sessions in Postane Studios, and I'm Damla Durman. Today, my guests are Jo Verrent and Su Başbuğu. Welcome.
Hello. So I'm Jo Verrent. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the director of an organisation in the UK called Unlimited. And Unlimited is an organisation that commissions disabled artists to make exceptional work and share that work with the world.
Hello, this is Su. I'm the sorry again. It's a very long title that I always screw up, so I need to start again. So, hello, this is Su. I work for the British Council. I'm the Equality, Diversity, Inclusion Program Manager for Cultural Engagement, which is a huge title. For those who don't know, the British Council, it's a charity that works worldwide. That is, main aim is to build connection, understanding, and trust between UK and countries worldwide through arts, education, and English. And my position is working across arts, education, and English, and supporting global program leads to deliver in a more inclusive way, building more inclusive strategies, and working around a robust action plan to achieve our aim around equality, diversity, and inclusion. My previous job within the British Council was Arts Manager Turkey, where I had the chance to engage with Unlimited quite often and partner as well, and bring Unlimited to Turkey, Istanbul, 2 years ago for a 3 days festival, and build this experience and had the chance to learn from Unlimited and all our partners in the UK, but also have a chance to create a platform for institutions in Turkey that were interested in working around accessible art, disability arts as well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to talk more about what we did with Unlimited in Turkey.
So Unlimited has a really interesting history because it started as part of the Olympics in London 2012. That was when the Olympics came to the UK, and it was written into our bid that there would be a programme for disabled artists that would do for them what the Paralympics does for disabled athletes. So it was about investment, it was about fast tracking, visionary, interesting, dynamic work and showing that work to the world. And at the end of 2012, so we had kind of a 4-year run up, and there were 25 commissions. And then we had London 2012, and the eyes of the world were upon us. And that was all amazing. But that was supposed to be it. It was supposed to be a one-off. But at the end of that, our main funding body, Arts Council England, thought, I wonder what would happen if we maintained the commissioning element of this, and South Bank Centre, if they retained and continued with the festival element of this. I wonder if that would be useful and developmental for the sector. So we then started as a programme, and we ran as a programme for 10 years, and now we're an independent organisation. We still have that relationship with the South Bank, where they show our work every 2 years in a big festival that attracts a number of international delegates, which is an amazing melting pot and mix of cultural experiences, different perspectives, discussions, and of course always centering on the work of disabled artists.
Yeah, that's amazing. Actually, I had a chance to experience the the whole festival in last September, and it was kind of like an the utopia for me, and because all the people we had just being at the same spot with the same passions, and it this is our playground, that the unlimited say that.
I'm really pleased to hear that, because our biggest hope isn't that people just listen to the UK. Our biggest hope is that people listen to each other and we create that global um, uh, feeling and inspiration. Our ideas are not always the best ideas. Our artists are not always the best artists. There's a whole world out there, and we're fascinated when we learn and when other people learn from each other.
I'm very curious about also what insights does offer on how an organization like Unlimited sustains its operations over time, because you're an independent at the same time, but you have a governmental fundings and some supports from the different organizations. But I really would love to hear some tips about how to survive. Yeah.
I think the most surprising thing about us, so we're set up now as a charity, um, but our aim, our ultimate manifesto is to close, is to not be here. We want to change the cultural sector in the UK and also globally so that disabled artists aren't at a disadvantage because of their disability. We want to remove barriers so that disabled artists aren't underrepresented. And we'll know that in the UK, 23% of our population are disabled people. And yet, usually, it's only around 8 to 9 to 10% of our artists who get funded, of the work that's showing in seasons and festivals, of the artists who are gaining other funding support. When that gap closes, when we're funding 23% disabled artists, when I can go to any festival, event, or season and see within their program that there's 23% disabled artists in that, then I can go and do something else more interesting. The organisation can close. We won't need to be here anymore. Now, we know that's a long way off, but it's really important for us that we hold on to that vision, that we're here for as long as we're needed, but no longer. We're not trying to set up something that people have to rely on. We want other people to do the work, not just us. And how do we do that in a funding sense? We have a wide range of funding partners. So Arts Council England, who's the primary funder for England, but also Creative Scotland and Arts Council Wales. So within the UK, there are 4 countries. We get money from 3 of them. We don't, at the moment, get funding from Northern Ireland because it has a very small amount of funding and it can't quite afford to buy in the same way. And then we work with trusts and foundations. And of course, we work with the British Council, who've been a supporter of Unlimited from the very, very early days. And even before 2012, they've been focused on arts and disability. And that mix of funding has really helped us grow and become established. Having said that, like everywhere, funding is becoming harder and harder and harder to find. So fingers crossed for the next 4 years.
And in 2015, when you watched Jazz Tom's Tourette's Hero in Edinburgh, it marked the beginning of your journey in accessible art, as I know. It shapes both your thoughts and work in this field. And over the past 10 years, your contributions, both within British Council and through your individual efforts, have been, you know, invaluable. It's amazing. So I was curious about how did your path cross with Jo and Unlimited, and what was the experience, making Unlimited in Istanbul?
Thanks for talking about just on Tourette Zero. It was an eye-opening experience for me when I had the chance to attend a show in Edinburgh. I work for the British Council, and one of the major values of the British Council is being inclusive and bold. So, not being afraid to make changes, to speak up, and to call out what's not working, and to have this inclusive mindset. And we have our internal tools, we have our internal platform where we could really work on and discuss and have those brainstorming sessions on how to really build something that is inclusive for everyone, regardless of their background. So that's there. I'm quite lucky to be in an environment which promotes that. But on the other hand, we are witnessing what could be done and what the limits or the unlimitedness of this space was really a mind-opening. And afterwards, I mean, I started using the British Council resources. It could be the tools that I mentioned, but it could be also the partners that we're already working with. So, and try to understand what can be done and what can we bring into Turkey, and to change the landscape and start having those discussions around inclusive program management, inclusive arts, disability arts within the Turkish space. And the first project that I led around inclusivity and this idea of equality, diversity, inclusion was Museum Without Walls, which is an online exhibition platform that we developed in Turkey, that the main aim was to showcase the British Council collection, which is a huge collection with thousands of works that sits in a warehouse that has limited opportunities to be showcased around. But we decided that using the digital space would help us, extend its reach. And the first year of the exhibition, really, ignorantly so, we thought that putting something online would change everything and that everybody would come visit the exhibition. But of course not. I mean, we realized quite soon that we repeated the same pattern, so end up with the same audience. So that's where, and with witnessing the Edinburgh Festival and being in talks with our colleagues in the UK, that's where we started adding a layer on inclusivity. So what we could do, who should we bring into the design stage so that we could be inclusive, meaning that we could extend our reach, we could extend our audience and bring the content that we have to people and make them the decision of watching, attending, and dismantling the barriers as Unlimited is doing so greatly. So that's where we started bringing expertise and experience from our partners. It started with the UK, then we extended our network within Turkey, and we brought disabled designers, we brought Unlimited or Shape Arts, where we started having those discussions and understanding what we mean by that, and working with professionals that know the audience, that are part of the audience, and made them part of the design. So that's where we met with Jo, actually. So for one of the launches of our exhibition, so we had 5 different exhibitions over the course of 5 years. We invited Jo to have a talk at the launch. And I think that it was also quite, for me, it's always inspiring to talk with Jo. So it's always, it's so casual, but you learn a lot, and you have also opportunity to feed into the discussion. So it's not a one-way thing. I think she's very open, and Unlimited has a very open strategy. So that's why it's really building on all experiences and all the dialogues that it has had through the years. And I think that's personally, that's something that inspires me a lot, and I try to do as well. So Jo was in Istanbul, and we had a chat on stage, and I know that many institutions in Turkey, big institutions, were quite inspired by by the journey of Unlimited.
Yes, I'm also curious about what potentials and challenges were encountered while organizing Unlimited in Istanbul. I'm curious about both of your perspectives. Maybe you can share some process and experience examples because it's a huge city, and also the biggest challenge we face here is that before even knowing who are the disabled artists, it becomes difficult to identify the artists what they needed. And I believe we urgently need to highlight the key actors working in this field. One of the best examples, maybe the just only example of this, was the Unlimited events held in Istanbul in recent years. Yeah.
I think for us, that comes very much from our values. We know that every disabled person is different, and we know that every disabled person needs something different. So, for every Jess Tom we fund, Jess is a disabled person who has Tourette's. It's very obvious when you meet her. It's not something that can be hidden away, and all of her work focuses on opening her experience out to the public, and a negotiation around that, which is just beautiful and brilliant to see. We've also got disabled artists where disability is nothing to do with their work, where the barriers that they face are actually in making the work. And we don't say to artists, you have to be one way or the other. We say any disabled artist can get involved. And I think that then filters through to projects and to our partners. We're really interested in working with anybody who's interested, because that way we think we can make change happen more quickly. If we go, there is only one way to do this and you must do it in this particular way, we're narrowing down all the time. We're setting up a situation where we pretend that there's only one expert, and we're monetizing stuff, and we're not interested in that. So we tend to work really, really hard to keep those doors as open as possible and to welcome difference. We want other people to welcome the difference of disability. We need to be open enough to welcome different approaches, different voices, and to deal with the conflict that's inherent within that. It's not always the easiest space, but I think it's the most interesting.
Yeah, the journey to do Unlimited in Turkey was built with Museum with Art was the digital project that I just mentioned. So it was 5 years of learning and extending our network, extending our audience, making sure that we're not creating a platform for disabled people, but with disabled people. The end audience wasn't disabled people, it was everyone. But to be able to accommodate everyone, you have to build the design with everyone. So disabled people was a group within it that we work quite closely. And so, yeah, we built this experience, we built this network, and it was pre-pandemic, so digital was very innovative at that time. So then pandemic happened, and digital exploded. Everybody started to build things online. I think we were quite a pioneer in having those discussions around inclusive digital spaces, accessible digital spaces. Anyway, with this knowledge and with this extended network, we decided that we were ready to do something face-to-face. That time came to a more physical space to engage with artists, engage with different art forms, and also try to transform the spaces that we're working with. That's the first challenge, was to find a space that would be able to accommodate as diverse disabilities as possible. The second one was to convince those spaces to have such an event. And the third one was to build the content. We have this network in Turkey, but we didn't want to have a showcasing for disabled artists. We wanted to have a curated content, including disabled artists, but including with artists that don't necessarily have a platform to showcase in, and don't necessarily have a voice within the cultural sector, and also bring talent and experience from the UK and the wider Europe region as well, which Turkey is based in, including the Balkans, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Israel, Russia, Ukraine. So this big, region that we have, so that it's started as an Istanbul event, but it quite quickly turned into an international one. And opening with Jess Tom, so Tourette's Heroes performance was really a full circle moment for me. I mean, having in 2015 seen her on stage and then being able to bring her to Istanbul and share her with a wider audience, if I may say, that was really a full circle moment. But the challenges were technical. I mean, very much technical challenges that we need to face. And building this content so that it doesn't feel as a charity or feel good activity, but rather a learning space, a platform where we learn from each other, and it's based on mutuality and is safe as well.
We always talk about work being must see rather than should see. And I know it's a visual metaphor, but it kind of goes beyond that. We do not want people to come to see the work of disabled artists or experience the work of disabled artists because they think they should, because it's out of charity, because it's coming from a pity perspective. If you come with that perspective, you will not read the work correctly as the artists intend. You have to come and see it because it's brilliant art, because it offers a fresh perspective, because it gives something new to the scene that we've not heard before. It's different voices, it's different experiences. And in a number of cases, it's really innovative and leading transformations in the way that theatre or music or dance or visual arts have been seen before because of access, because of the perspectives that people bring. It's really challenging and changing forms, which I absolutely love. But it's very much in that space rather than it's by disabled artists. We've got to go and see it in order to look good. That's not the vibe at all.
So, as I know, Unlimited's support and developed system is a framework that encourages us to think about how we can find answers to certain questions and needs, as well as what we can request from our partners, institutions, and employers. So the Dear Work We Need to Talk manifest has sparked some ideas for me, also for my colleagues. We are currently thinking about how this ecosystem, and manifesto could be implemented in here in Turkey.
So Dear Work was a letter I wrote to work saying, yeah, we've got to talk about overworking in the cultural sector. There is an absolutely endemic culture of overworking. And if you don't put in masses and masses and masses of extra hours, you're seen as not doing your job, or the job is not doable within the hours that it's actually stated. And we're supposed to do it because we love it. And the argument that I was making is that disabled people don't always have the same choices around the hours that we put in as non-disabled people. I see 4 specialists at 4 different hospitals for various elements of my impairments. That takes up time, going for regular blood tests, etc. It all takes up time. I have a fatigue related element to some of my conditions. It means I need to rest, which takes up time. So I can't overwork to the extent that other people can, but I feel trapped in the cultural sector about needing to try in order to keep up. I can remember my favourite bit of the letter is where I open up and honestly admit that every day I begin by going, who am I going to disappoint? I can't do everything on my list. My to-do list is out of control. I can't do it. So I will let somebody down. And every day making that decision, which doesn't do great things for your mental health. living in that kind of space. And publishing it felt a very bold thing to do. It felt a very honest and transparent thing to do, but it also felt a bit scary. But the response was absolutely overwhelming, and it started many conversations and many challenges in the way that we work at Unlimited. I don't think we've cracked it yet. I think that the funding system that we are in demands still that we overwork, and we are really pushing back on that as much as we can. It's incredibly hard.
I would re-emphasize the Nothing for Nothing campaign. I think that's in thriving societies or in a very small cultural sector, it's something that is being asked, demanded largely in Turkey, unfortunately. And I do understand where it's coming from, but I think we need to institutionalize more, to be more trust ourselves, to demand more. And build our confidence. I think that we have a brilliant sector in Turkey in terms of cultural managers, artists, but either we're afraid or we have lost confidence throughout the years and we don't demand what we deserve. So that's the main thing that I do see in Turkey. And here the culture is more, it's a little bit more about nothing for nothing. I see good examples. I see that, it comes in most of the cases without you even asking. So it's more structured, it's more consistent. So that's the main difference in comparison of the two sectors.
Actually, what are the best practices you have observed in Unlimited events over the years that could be implemented in Istanbul? This is one of the maybe the beautiful examples in the podcast series, because it was starting and connected with the Unlimited. And also, additionally, what would you like to share about the future of accessibility?
What Unlimited did to me and what I wanted to take forward and do in my own programs and own projects that I was leading on, that touched upon as well, Damla, is this networking bit. It's to connect people. That's what we intended to do with Unlimited Turkey. You can't change people's mind or how they do work in a 3 days festival, even if you do the best one ever. It's about creating those connections and engaging people with each other so that they have this first dialogue in a safe space where they're not afraid to share their own experience. They're more confident and they know that they are amongst peers and that they could learn from each other and they could collaborate in the future. So that was one of the main things. So, and seeing this podcast and you traveling to Unlimited with Serkan Bozkurt as well, who was one of our partners in Unlimited Turkey. And being in this podcast, I think that's one of the impact that we wanted to have. I know that Tourette's Zero at the Festival and Accessible Everything are collaborating on a new project that I'm quite excited about. So those are the things that, British Council is a big institution. It's been there for 90 years. Hope it would be there for 90 more, but we don't know. Or maybe it's time to change, as Unlimited, has stated before. But our work, I think, it's to build those spaces where people could connect, and the impact that we create might be on the audience to have a change or for them to see something new, something exciting. That's also quite great. But I think the main impact that we could have as such big institutions is to create those networks so that people could continue their work collaborating in an international mutual environment. And I am quite happy to hear your story, and I hope that there would be many more.
I think for us, there's a lot of accessible things that we now just take for granted. So things being captioned or having sign language interpretation. I still think we're less good at audio description for blind and visually impaired people. We find that artists in the UK see that slightly as an afterthought on the whole, and that's something we're really interested in pushing more, because when we show works, it is about what the artists add in. And again, with the constriction on budgets, with funding being harder, now people are having to choose one or two editions rather than being able to add in more things. Relaxed performances, which Jess Tom was part of championing, although they were happening before Jess too, where the lights are up and people know more about the sounds and people can come and go. Things like that we consider to be relatively normal now, which I think is brilliant. I'm really, really pleased about that. But I think that there's still a long way to go, and there's a lot of arguments about some other access aspects. In the UK, there's a lot of conversation about trigger warnings. Do you let people know what's going to happen, particularly about the content of the material, in advance so they can make an informed decision? Or are you spoiling the art by doing that? That's a big debate that's happening in our press still at the moment. Um, During the COVID pandemic worst parts, COVID is still with us. We're still in the pandemic. It hasn't gone away. But we did a lot of really innovative live streaming and online elements, which really supported a wide range of disabled people getting access to art they'd never had before. When the lockdown stopped, sadly, so did a lot of that work. It didn't continue. But actually, it was the first time those people had access to work in that volume. And I find it very sad that all of that has kind of stopped so readily. It shows that technically we can create that, we can do that, we can offer that. So I find it quite sad we made a choice to not offer that so much at the moment. Um, but I think the biggest area for me in terms of access that's still new territory are the things that artists create themselves that we've never thought of before. I love Floorboard's work. There's a new company called Floorboard, and they absolutely, excuse my language, but they take the piss out of accessibility whilst having brilliant access. And they make it so funny that everybody can understand both the need for access and how ridiculous it can sometimes get when we're audio describing a sign language interpreter, and things like that. The layers that they put on, I think, is brilliant. What I don't like is where there's just simply a checklist and things get ticked off. I think we're the creative sector. We can do better than that. I love it when artists create access in ways that we've never thought about before. I think that the best thing is to build a supportive ecosystem where artists and venues and the sector as a whole are all engaged in creating the access that is needed. Venues know about access from an audience perspective. They know their audience, they know what their audience really likes and appreciates, but they can still reach out further to new audiences. Artists can be creative about access, can build accessible elements into their work at the very heart and aesthetic of the work rather than bolting it on afterwards. I mean, I'm fed up of seeing sign language interpreters on the side of the stage. All I do is watch them. I never get to see the performance. So I love it when there's deaf performers or when interpreters are involved within the piece. The worst thing for me is when there's a tick box list and it's just, have we got this? Have we got this? Have we got this? Because I think that isn't creative. And what I love is the creativity of the art. That for me is the thing that really captures people's imagination and changes the hearts and minds and convinces people to go on this journey with us and beyond what we can do. One of the things that we would really love to do, and we're trying to raise the money to do it at the moment, is to create an archive of some of the most amazing and influential pieces of work. particularly pieces of work that cannot be restaged. And that may be because sadly the artist has passed on. It may be because they were too expensive, and in the current climate we can't necessarily restage them. And we want that archive to be available free to anybody, particularly to education, to schools, who have to focus on artists but don't necessarily bring disabled artists into that mix. So that's one thing that we're doing. We're also continuing to work across the globe with different partners. We can do as much or as little as the funding allows, and British Council is brilliant at that, but we do have to prioritize some countries over other countries at different times, and that can be very hard for a country that isn't in our top list for that year. But we try and spread ourselves around as much as we can. And we also create resources, be it resources around our campaigns, or I can see in the background you've got Cards for Inclusion up there. So that's a card game about an approach for access. And we've worked with some other countries to develop that in other versions. We worked with Taiwan and have a set in simplified Chinese. We worked with Argentina, Mexico, Peru, and created a set in Spanish for Latin American speaking countries. And we've just created a set with Portugal, in Portuguese, for use in Portugal and Brazil. So we're really keen that resources can be taken by countries and used and made into things that are useful for you. Again, it's that thing about passing it on, not trying to own it.
Can I add something? I think it's good to remember that Unlimited didn't also happen overnight. It's a process, so it takes time. So it doesn't mean that we're not here yet in the Turkey context, that we won't get here. But it's more about mainstreaming the narrative, being more visible, trying to push ourselves, to push this. Don't want to say agenda because it has a negative connotation for me, but it's push this way of working to this inclusive program management, inclusive artistic development, inclusive curation, make it part of the dialogue, making part of the meeting agendas, making part of your professional development. It's not overnight. We don't become inclusive overnight. We don't become unlimited overnight, and we don't become Damla overnight as well. So it's about doing the work and taking this extra step forward to share this with larger.
I think I would love to say at the end, thank you so much for having me on. It's a delight to reconnect with both of you. It's always brilliant to connect with people over the years.
Yes. Thank you all for listening, and please don't forget to follow Unlimited and British Council's Jo and Su's works, and see you in the next episode. Take care.